When we hear the creation story, we're often baffled by why Eve fell for the serpent's lie. This is Coach Maggie with another Soul Food Sunday. We read in the beginning and we think Adam and Eve lived in a perfect world. And yet, why would she throw everything away and listen to the voice of the serpent? But really, is she much different than us? There was an identity crisis. She didn't know who she really was. He got her to focus on what she didn't have. And of course, we can only imagine through our imagination what it would have been like to be in a perfect world, because let's face it, we're not. But we imagine her and Adam walking through the garden, talking to God, having conversation, access to every kind of plant and animal there was. And yet she let that little voice get in her head saying, did God really say that? And that's where it starts for us. We're often, wrestling with that question. We feel like we have a purpose. We feel like, okay, I'm supposed to do this. We feel like, all right. And then there's that little voice that says, but did God really say that? He may have said it, but he didn't mean it about you. We live in an age of identity crises and identity theft. And we hear about that, and we want to make sure we're protecting our computers and our information and our credit and all of those types of things, our finances. But we live in an age where people are trying to steal our identity. We need to know who we are. And I'm really going through this right now in my own life of, at times having those doubts, and yet hearing God say, yes, you are who I created you to be. Stop trying to be someone else. It's so easy to look at other people and look at their lives and look at what they've got. But that's what the serpent did with Eve. Again, she was in a perfect setting. And yet there was one tree, just one tree, that God said, don't bother that one. And that was the one Satan got her to want and desire. And let's face it, most of us deal with discontentment at times. Boy, life would be better if I only had that, if I had that job, if I was married to that person, if I had more money, if I had a different, whatever, different family, if I'd grown up in a different family. And so there's just all of these different things, and we're looking at. And yet, we need to be focusing on all that we do have. And most of all, we need to be focusing on the God who gave us those things. Yes, there's a lot of bad things going on. Yes, there's a lot of problems within our family, in our homes, in our society, in our communities. But we need to be focusing on what we do have and praying for wisdom. The book of James talks about when you lack wisdom, all we have to do is ask, and God has answers. Heaven is full of solutions for our problems. We tend to go to each other, we tend to grumble and gripe, but He has solutions. So, what are the things that you are dealing with? Think about your identity. Are you thinking, boy, I wish I had, I wish I was? We often want to be somebody different, but it's not going to happen. He designed us to be who exactly He wants us to be. And that's why we need to continually go back to, am I the person He created me to be? Or am I going through an identity crisis and I've got my eyes on this person over here or this person over there, and I'm trying to live their lives? The other thing is that just really amazes me, and I had never thought of until very recently, is that the first sin with Adam and Eve and the fruit dealt with food, because we're often looking for food to satisfy us. There's a spiritual element to food, believe it or not. He could have tempted Eve with so many other things, but he chose food because food has a way of satisfying. However, sometimes eating the wrong things, it doesn't. And so, again, she took her eyes off of all of the foods that were good for her, all of the things that were really put in that garden for her. And she looked at the one thing that wasn't, that was forbidden. Let's make sure we are not going to food because we're trying to fill an emptiness. And that's what we often do. We hear the term comfort food, it's for a reason. A lot of those things are getting us to take our eyes off of now and the situation we're in and to go and grab the potato chips, the chocolate. That's what it was for me, the chocolate, the sugar. All of those things point to that there's a need not being met. And that need starts with reaching out above. God has the answers. Heaven is full of solutions. So, what are those things that you find yourself drawn to that deep down you know you shouldn't? It's you're trying to fill a need, and I have done that, and it's constantly. I think as long as there's breath in our body, we will find ourselves at time being drawn to those things. Maybe for you it isn't food, but it's money. Maybe it's relationships. And unfortunately, too often they're the wrong relationships. So when we are craving, and we don't like to use that word, but when we're craving after things, it's because there's an emptiness that we're trying to meet. And in Eve's case, she chose a forbidden fruit. So, what is it that you find yourself drawn to? God has the answer. Put that down, put it aside, and seek Him because He is the solution to any emptiness that you might be feeling. Again, this is Coach Maggie. Have an amazing, blessed day. Take care. God bless.